Get off the boat. What's going on, everybody? Today we are continuing from yesterday's video. We have a hose here. I'm going to makeshift and make it work to put a hose on so we can put it up the Yamaha and see if we got good water flow before we get to our water pump here. So let's start with that. So we've got our hose here, a makeshift piece. Hopefully it doesn't blow out with water pressure. She goes in the hole here. What I'm going to do is pull their side cowlings off. That way, first thing we're going to do is just make sure that we got good flow out of our P tube here. Then I'll yank the thermostats off the top and make sure we got good water flow all the way to the top so we got no restriction. I'm going to get it all apart first. So we got all our covers off. On each side we have a thermostat up here, but we're not going to pull that yet. Let's put a hose down here. See if we got water flow first. Let's hope that stays. Slowly put pressure on it so it doesn't blow the hose off of it. We're wide open. And before we weren't getting hardly any water out of here. I suspect that water pump though is the problem. Let's see what we got. Should get water coming out of our P tube here. Oh, there she goes. Looks like we got good flow. Alright, so I shut the water off. Let me pull our thermostats off each side so we can check and make sure we got good flow coming out of here. Well, I may have found another problem here. Our thermostat's stuck open. This is the starboard side, so we'll get a new one of those. Actually, probably just do two of them since we got one stuck. Alright, so we got our hoses off here, each side. Let's put the hose back on and see what it does. It should be flowing. Oh! Good flow on that side. Yeah, we got them on both sides. So we're gonna wait for our thermostats. Now, let's get our water pump back together here. A lot of people will glue this, but I just put a little grease on it usually. We take these apart every year. That way they come apart again when we need them. O-rings in. Gotta remember too, we have a seal in here. And the pieces that go to the upper part of this. Can't forget to take them out of the old water pump. Of course, the forklift's running out there, so it's noisy. Alright, there's our housing. Put our studs in. Helps line it up. Got an O-ring to put here. Same thing, put a little grease on everything. I just like to grease everything because our customers will bring this stuff to us every year. And then everything will come apart easily for the next time. They say every 2 years, but because we're in a pretty harsh environment, we always tell them, just bring it in once a year, we'll pull everything apart. That way you're safe on the water. Until your thermostat sticks and your housing melts. But can't predict everything. Got a plate on there. Let's stick a little grease on the back of that so that this thing will stick. When we try to slide the impeller on it, doesn't want to fall off on you. If you look at your water pump, there's a little notch that indicates where it actually goes. Zoom in. See that little spot right there? That's how you know where the pin goes here on the bottom part. And we can line it up perfectly. That's it. Let's make sure she's down good. And slide our hosing over. Always stick a little grease on our bolts here. They come out easily too. Zip them in. Get them snug first before I crank them down a little bit. They don't have to be super tight because obviously all this is plastic. That's it. Now we just gotta grease it here, grease our splines up here, grease our shift shaft. I always put a little grease here so it slides in nicely. So let's get this out there so we can put it on. We got Trent here to help so that we can lift up this 4 million pound gear case. Good. Well, that was fun. Now, get all my bolts in here. Then we'll put our thermostats back in. Let me do that real quick. So our gear case is on. We're gonna put our thermostats in. I need both my hands here. And then after I stick those in, we're gonna have this guy put our side cowlings on. We got something else we gotta do. We gotta get this boat back in the water. So let me show you that in a second. I hooked a hose to it just to verify we got no leaks in our new thermostats here. Everything looks good. So he's gonna put those on. Well, we do one more thing. Show you. Go in the front. Our hole has already been taken apart, but our bow thruster, the seal has leaked through. So we gotta yank that out. We got a new gear case for it. We'll clean this up. We gotta repin our motor here. There's a pin that goes through there. You can kind of see it, but we'll do all that here. But first, we gotta get our old gear case out and get the prop and everything off of it. So let's do that first. So before we get our gear case out of the hole, we actually gotta pull our nut off, get our prop out of here. I wonder if we have a new anode for it too, we'll see. Pull. Washer behind it. So the prop's off. Now let's jump in there and get it loosened up. Barely fit in the hole here. All right. Let's get this motor out of the way because we're going to clean this up anyways. I know the motor is good. Already tested it prior to us taking it apart. Now we just got to pull these two out. That's what holds our gear case on. Just glad they're not corroded or anything there. Seem to come out pretty easily. Now you can see here, the reason they came out is because it's got a bunch of sealer. There's a bunch of sealer on the holes there too. Doubt that's going to come out without me taking a hammer to it. We'll try it first. I'm also going to spray and clean all this up, grease it, try to keep this as clean as possible. And we're going to clean up our backside here. And then we got to repin this. So we're going to take this into the shop to fix this. So let's do this first, and then we'll get our gear case out. Got our cowlings back on. So to save me time, we're going to utilize them some more. I'm going to have them clean all that up before we get the gear case out of there, and then we'll go inside here and get the pin and clean the motor up. Alright, so we've got our motor on the bench. Here's our new gear case, new anode bolt, here's our new pin. This goes in here, a new gasket, new bolts to mount it up. So let's clean all this up first before we get our new pin in. Cleaned up. Now let's hammer these pins out of here. Oh, well, that was easy. Get our new one in. This is the way the manufacturer actually does it too. They put a zip tie on this just to make sure that pin doesn't want to go anywhere. Our motor's ready. Now let's go hammer that gear case out of the hole. So he's got this all cleaned up. Looks good. If you would, jump down there. I'm gonna hammer the gear case out. That was it. So now we gotta clean up everything on the outside so we can get our new gear case in first. I'll have them stick it up there with silicone in that new gasket, and we'll put our screws back down in it. All right, he's cleaning it up down there. Let's go get the gear case ready for him. All right, our hole's clean. Put some silicone on both sides. All right, I just gotta jam it in the hole there, and I'll get in there and screw it down. All right, we got new screws for it. All right, it's good and tight now. Now, I'm gonna put some grease on this stuff, just in case anything leaks later on. Might have a little bit of time to save itself instead of getting corroded like it did. Can't hurt. Now the fun part, let's put the motor down on it. Let's make sure this is lined up. There's actually one bolt over here that you have to leave in, or you gotta take everything apart in order to get it out of there. So I just leave it in and we'll screw it down. This thing will just fall right into place. And get other bolts in there. There's just 4 big ones that attach the motor to the housing here. Good thing is when everything's cleaned, you can actually just screw these down by hand and then tighten them down afterwards. Much easier this way. Now we'll tighten them down. This one here, you gotta use a wrench for it because you can't get a socket on it. Here, just take a long bar, crank it down. It's got like brass studs and plastic, so you got to be careful. You can't really over torque these, or you'll strip them right out. All right, she's tight. Connect our controller wires back here. We just got our power and ground here. I'm gonna reach down there and grab that cover for this side here. Let's put our power on first and cover back over it. Alright, that side's tight. Ground on here. Get our cover over this side. We're all hooked up. Let's give it a test. Turn our batteries on. Green light. Well, that's a good noise. Now let's go put our prop on. All right, washers first. Got our prop. Make sure she's not hitting anything. Get clearance. It's a new anode, a new lock nut. She's tight. Now let's test it one more time with the prop on it. Motor is done, bow thruster is done. Now we gotta wait in line so we can get this thing back in the water. We can check and make sure our water pressure has came back to life. So we'll be back once we get this thing moving. All right, we're raising her down. Just have you leave the front strap in the back. Where did you say you wanted this thing parked? In the whip slip. That's a nice 307. Make sure everything's on. Good, good, good. All right, ignition's on. Let's fire them all up. So before, we wouldn't have anything past about right where it's at there. So now we should be able to rev this thing up and watch that move. Now look at that. Building pressure. I think we fixed it. Let's just double check our another motor to make sure it does the same thing. Double check our thruster in the water here, huh? She's pushing. Everything seems good. Bow thrust is working. Everything's pumping water. So let's take it for a ride just to double check and make sure. There's those sweet Mercuries right there. So we're definitely not going to be able to go under the bridge. We're going to have to hook right, go all the way down. Oh, here, I'll show you. I'm going to go that way. Doesn't fit under that bridge in Clearwater, so we're going to go that way, and then we'll be able to go around. So I'll just cut back to the film here when we get to a spot where we can hammer down. We are in a spot where we can get it done now. So let's hammer down, make sure she runs. We still got good water pressure. Been about 15 minutes of pretty much idling all the way through here when it would give us a problem if we had a problem with low water pressure. So let's do it. Just watching the gauge there. We don't even have to go very far here. I'll show you the gauge when we hammer down one more time on the way back around here. See our water pressure spiking immediately. That's good news. Everything's working here. Water pressure is good. Got no alarms. We're about half an hour in the boat already. I gotta idle all the way back over here to the marina. No big deal. But it's late in the day. It's past 4 o'clock already. So that being said, I'm going to call it a day in the video here. As always, I appreciate everybody watching. I will see you next time. Later. Well, hey there, buddy.